Hi, this is Lawson Electronics. Today we're going to go to Nessus Essential on this video here. What we're going to be doing here is showing we're working with earlier about our firewall series on kind of comparing the different firewalls. The first thing we're going to do here is I ran a scan from a UDM Pro because that's kind of the first starting point I kind of worked with in the series. So we're going to kind of go back to that one. I want to work with getting OpenVast and kind of compare these between these tools. I'll just use this one here because the Nessus is one of the other tools there. We're gonna get a comparison between these two here. This is good for kind of auditing your networks, kind of showing you the vulnerabilities and what kind of capabilities they have and what's going against it. So we're gonna go ahead and log into this here so we can kind of see everything. So what you want to do is you want to go to your address that where it's locally stored, which is 127.0.0.1, and then port 8834 or whatever port you assign it to, but that is the default one. So you can see here that we've ran a scan on the network here. We're going to go through some of the basics here. Here's what we're going to go ahead and go to scans, all scans, trash, policies, and you can run a scan for the templates, and it shows you all the templates and shows you what here. I'm just doing the free version here, and then we got our plugins and roles we can go create. Again, there's a great community if you need to have configuration, kind of licensing, what options you have for plugins and options here. So we do have options we can be able to run a scan against and what kind of roles and stuff we can be able to do, kind of audit my own network. Again, here's some security, kind of talks to you about all the CV reports and what's going on, so you can kind of get prepared what to expect on your network and how to patch and what's out there, and kind of gives you a little bit more in depth of what's going on here. And again, that it's nice to be able to have, kind of shows you how what's been going on for the current news, so you can kind of see, kind of let you know what's going on in the news on what to look for. So that's always a good way to be able to kind of research everything. We also have our settings here. We got about Advanced. Here's our advanced header, user interface, scan, logs, performances, security, miscellaneous. You can set up a proxy server to run through. SMTP if you want to get emails about everything, what's going on here. Custom certificates if you want to place one in there and generate one. You can have a password timeout so they can make it so many invalid login attempts that we can be able to, they can go through here and basically get a there, so we can know that if any is a problem here. Shows us what's going on with the logs and everything here. Network alerts, notifications, and my account, an API key if you want to generate one. Overview, license, software updates, daily, update plugins, rotated components. So this is just kind of the basics of running a scan, going through the network, having a history, running what's on the machine. So this is a very good tool here to use. And to kind of show you what's going on with the UDM Pro, because that's going to be kind of important to kind of see what happens with that scan here. Then we're going to go ahead and you can look at all the scans here that we ran across this, what it looks like here. You can see it's trying to run through here. And we'll go ahead and go through the report here in a second and show you what scans and stuff it uses and tells you there. It's not always 100% accurate, but it gives you a good indication what may be vulnerable on your network here. If you want to know what it is, here you can click on this. Information, tells you what the host, tells you what ports, tells you all your information, tells you what you're running here. On your certificates and stuff here, so it tells you what your vulnerability, make sure where your certificate information is here. Okay, this also shows you what's going on here. Tells you on a Linux PC how to be able to do the solution to disable IP forwarding. Tells you how to do this. Also, in Windows gives you registry in case of Mac here, so it does give you discretion how to disable and how to work with those kind of processes. Tells us the security certificate. It tells us what port and information it found. Tells us again, here's all the tools, and also you may want to basically get these issues where they're in all the expired certificates and everything, so you know what's going on in your network. It tells us all the network's information here from where we're broadcasting. It tells us where DNS server router, and tells us what the port numbers and what's going out. Tells us you want to run a port scan. It tells us everything, kind of like what Nmap does, but you can also click on there and tells us what's going on there. It tells us what can be found and opened here. Tells us all the information on all the different services it shows for HTTP. It tells us all the services we're running across here and what the policies are for it. You see, identify my router right there with the information here. Tells me you can see what router and what levels and what my what operating system the router is. It identified it as. Tells us the route it takes here to go from between my my VLAN here. Tells you so that way you can know every service is run on your network, which is a good thing here. And this kind of breakdown here. Tells me my computer, everything it finds here, that ports and stuff are open and what's being used. Tells me a little bit more information on what we're trying to scan, and tells me what to use and see if there's any critical and those things. Same thing if I want to go and download the report, I can always go download it here, and I have the options here. On a trail, reports, I can download this like an example HTML or PDF. So we want to go, hey, we want to download this in PDF. Customer summary, so we can see what's going on here. So we can kind of have we can export this. So these are things, or any kind of histories of scans here. It tells us what time we ran the scan. Here, so there's a lot of things it can do here. So this is Nessus Systems here, kind of running through it here. This is what the UDM Pro looks like when it's getting scanned. You can tell how it looks on there. It tells us the admin. It tells us, hey, where somebody's trying to attack our network, which is good that our IPS system, intrusion protection system, is working, because we can see all the requests that it's trying to tell us this is doing. So this, if you're going to look what happens when you run a scan. No different if you want to run a scan, kind of like if you're going to here. But if you want to run it for the whole 24 dot addresses, it'll do this here. You can see that it's currently running a scan here. It's going to take a few minutes for everything to come back up here, and you'll see that it is going to take a few moments to run. Show this in the background right here. What we do is told it to scan for all ports and then tell it to identify operating systems here. You can see it try to do. You can see where it says here that we'll see here in a moment. It should tell us that we have an alert here in a second. When is this trying to do this? This is not from us, but there looks like somebody else is trying to attack the network, so it's a good thing you have an IDS system. Just to save time so we don't run through the whole subnet, we're just going to go ahead and let's try to do my own machine here. This will run and it'll give you the identification information just like any other Nmap scan here. So I will take a few moments. I should normally do pause this video and then show you at the end of this, but it'll take a few moments here for this to run here. We'll do another one if you want to see another example here. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and try to scan the Pi here. That is the Pi-hole server, just to show what that is here. Just showing that this is a Pi-hole, and it should come back and saying this is a Raspberry Pi operating system here. Taking a long time is a good thing, because that means it's trying to pull out information, but it also made that our firewall may be trying to block some access, which is even better. And there you can see it here. It tells us what we're running here. It tells us any of the services we're running here, which you can see this. Tells me what operating system I'm running on the machine. So you can guys see the host kind of pulls up there, tells me what version of Linux. And this is my Pi just trying to say, hey, this is there, and tells me what ports it's running. So if you want to know kind of what the audit or trying what's going through your network, again, those are things you can watch here. and you can see all those things. You see where it says threat management, and there's my IP to the 16 dot address. So you can see when I ran a scan to my system, all the times I tried to run the nmap was, you can run those and you can see those from coming through right there. So again, this is how you can see your IDS is working, and it does a pretty good job. It tells me what it's going to do. It says ET pre possible scan, and it was. It tells me where I'm going from and going to. So it does go a different, it does have some information. So it does show me a little bit of where it's coming from when it runs an nmax scan. It tells us what port it's trying to go to and from. So again, those are things you can see if you're there, and you can also see those through the logs. This is just showing you kind of getting the baseline of what we're going to do, the results for that firewalls. We're also going to be Nessus versus OpenVAS, because that's going to be what we're going to be able to do here. So that way we can kind of have a baseline between those two. We'll also run it between all three of them, and then we're going to set firewall rules both on for in the future for our series for the IP firewall, also with using our pfSense, and then we're going to kind of compare it to what we can see from the UDM Pro, and then we'll have you can have any kind of suggestions or not any kind of, if you have any test scenarios you want to suggest, I'll go ahead and try to duplicate them the best I can, so that we can kind of work with trying to do the firewall series. We've got a couple other series we'll work in the future with. Just like any timeouts, I see any kind of major updates or anything I think is very useful for people to run, just like example the Raspberry Pi store we had, or the Ubiquity where the security breach was. I will make sure that I always update it as fast as possible I can, because again, I think that biggest thing about communication is one of the main keys, especially with YouTube, and we need to basically work as a team together to kind of so that we can be able to communicate information.